My name is Richard, and I am honoured to be conducting this service. Karen and family have asked me to present George's eulogy, and this will be followed by words from the family. After this, we ask that you pay your respects to George by coming forward and placing petals on his coffin. At the completion of the ceremony, the family will go with George to the crematorium. You're all very welcome to remain here. The family wish to share refreshments and memories of George in an informal way once they return. George was born 31st of October 1961 in Wuppertal, Germany. He was the eldest son of Ursula and Horst, brother of Frank and Ulf, and he has a sister, Heike. George would not describe himself as a model student during his school year. In fact, the opposite would be true. He did not like the restrictions of the classroom and could not see the point of homework. He left when he was 17 and began work as an apprentice kindergarten teacher. George enjoyed this work and he had a great rapport with the young. He loved helping them make sense and deal with challenges life had thrown at them. Throughout his life, George took a keen interest in the well-being of youth. Now, Karen lived 10 minutes down the road from George. They had known each other for a couple of years before they started going out. And this was soon after George left school. They became the wonderful couple we all came to know, sharing a love of life, travel and family. In 1986, they moved to the village of Wilhelmsthal. They joined a community of young families living in apartment blocks of a disused paper mill. This was an idyllic setting surrounded by forest, away from the hustle and bustle of city life.
Stay there.
In 1987, they headed off on a world trip. They went to America, Australia, and spent 5 weeks here in New Zealand. They fell in love with this area, and the major drawcard for them was the Abel Tasman Park. This was the kindle to eventually moving here with the family. Back in Wilhelmsthal, George and Karen married in 1988. Jonas and Marlene were born, and the couple got on with the busy life of raising a family. However, they yearned to return to New Zealand. So in 2001, Karen took a sabbatical from teaching. She was accepted by an English school in Richmond. They moved across. Now, the Richmond house that they moved in wasn't quite to their liking and didn't quite work out for them. So within a week or two, they moved across to Motueka and they began renting Scott and Nariti Sinclair's old house in Pamariki Street. This was the beginning of a wonderful relationship. George often spoke with fondness and appreciation of the help and kindness extended to his family by Scott and Nariti. So while Karen attended English classes in Richmond, George attended Friday night English pub classes at the Mott Hotel with Scott and the mates. The group of friends at the Mott included Joe Fon, who was very instrumental in finding George work around the orchards and hop gardens in the district. Jonas and Marlene had their first taste of New Zealand life attending Laimutri School. After 7 months, the sabbatical ended and the family moved back to Germany. George and Karen were unsettled and they didn't really enjoy being back home. Dealing with work stress, unfriendly people, traffic congestion. So things came to a head one day when they were stuck in a traffic jam. They looked and asked each other, shall we try to emigrate to New Zealand? The answer was yes, and they began the 2-year process of gaining work permits, followed by residency. A change of lifestyle was part of the plan. George asked Scott to keep an eye out for a backpacker or similar business that they could buy. Not long after this, Scott suggested that George contact the owners of the White Elephant, and this led to its eventual purchase. The family immigrated in August 2004. Jonas was 14 and Marlene 10. Now, they were not at all happy with the move. They were leaving their friends and familiar surroundings back in Germany, and it took a while for them to get adjusted. It was agreed that Jonas could move back to Germany and live with his grandparents when he was 16. However, within 6 months of arrival, they had both fallen in love with the area, made friends, and felt really comfortable. And they grew to appreciate the wisdom of George and Karen's decision to move. So began 11 years operating the White Elephant. There was the joy of a different lifestyle, meeting and becoming friends with people in our community, the privilege of making lifelong friendships with guests from all over the world. George's infectious smile and sense of humour touched many people. During the quiet times at the White Elephant, he worked in the orchards and the hop gardens. One of his recent jobs was grafting apple trees with Joe's gang. One day, George was in exceptional joke-telling form. He had the whole team laughing as they worked. The team took a lot of pride in their graft strike rate, and later Joe was inspecting how the grafting had taken, and he was a bit perplexed. One of the blocks had to be regrafted. And then Joe twigged that these are the rows where George was in his fine joke-telling form. Recently, George took bus tours around the whole country. He'd pick people up in Auckland. They were mainly German tourists, and he'd spend up to 4 weeks, 5 weeks, taking them around the countryside. And he absolutely loved to share his new country, his new homeland with them, and tell them all of its short history. After 10 years at the White Elephant, Karen suggested that it was time for a change. Now, George took some convincing, but he eventually agreed that the White Elephant should go on the market. It took about a year to close the deal. During this time, George started to look forward to a new life with Karen. The sale was completed at the end of August, and they moved to their house in Parkerfield. George loved the warmth of their new home. He became a convert to the very efficient diesel fire. Everyone should have one, George would say. The trip to Thailand was their first real holiday for over 3 years. On their own, with time to plan the future. We all heard with disbelief the news of George's death. Our hearts and thoughts went out to Karen and the family. So we support them now as they share their own reflections of George.
came as a big shock for all of us that George suddenly died. Many people expressed that they could not believe it. They asked what happened. I think for all of us it is important to make peace with what happened. It was the 7th night of our holidays in Thailand when I heard George while asleep gasping for breath. He was already unconscious. I turned him from the side on his back and started heart massage and later rescue breathing. But I was not able to bring him back, and the ambulance, who arrived soon, could not do anything anymore. George had been more tired and exhausted than usual for the last month. He had complained about shortness of breath some days ago. He was ill the last days with fever and diarrhea, but nothing was too serious so that he never wanted to go to see the doctor. He has always done what he wanted to do. And the two of us have lived every day as if it would be our last day. There is no regrets and nothing we did not do. My children lost their father too early, but George was always there for them, and I can see him in them. He gave them a lot for the future. George said once that he did not want us to be separated by one of us dying. I'm glad that I was with him to the last minute, and because he died in his sleep, we were never separated. I had 38 years with the love of my life, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for that. I'm glad that he did not suffer, and I was with him right to the end. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven.
Hello everyone, and thank you for coming. Before the passing of my dad, I'd never had the chance to confront death and how it impacts the people who live on. I used to say to myself that I would never attend a funeral. Everything has changed with the passing of my father. What I've realized is that death is a part of life which is more certain than anything. It is important to embrace life as well as death. With this, I would like to share a quick story with you about an experience I had with my father. Dad started brewing around 2007. At this point, I was just about to live in Wellington for 4 years for study. Sure enough, several years later, for my 21st birthday, I received a brewing kit from my father. At first, I was brewing with kit beers. $25 for 20 litres of beer. Who can complain about that? At that point, my German roots caught up with me, and after moving back to Motueka in 2012, I started brewing with grains, hops, and equipment that we had built together. One Saturday, we decided to brew together for the first time. Brewing started at 10 a.m. and with home brewing, it is often appreciated to have a beer while you're brewing. By 3 p.m, the beer was in the fermenting vessel, and by 4 p.m, we were both so drunk that we had to go to bed. I'm telling you this story because I have many memories like this one, not just about beer. And I think that most of you will have fond memories like this, and I hope you guys can come up to us later and share these memories with us. My dad has been a great teacher, a really good guardian, and the best mentor in the world. And that's how I will remember him. Thank you everyone for celebrating the life of my father with us.
Oh god. I'm just gonna hold it. Okay. So, when I first attempted to write this, I had a big meltdown. Nothing I had seemed to justify the way I felt, and still, to this minute, I don't think the two things can quite align. However, I will do my best to say something right now because I know I don't want to miss out on the opportunity to tell everyone here, including my dad, what he really meant to me. But instead of just telling you, I've decided to tell you guys a fairy tale. Once upon a time, in a village located in a big clearing among a magical forest, lived a king and his family. However, this king was no ordinary king. He was not a king through blood, nor did he rule or dictate. He was a king because the love he carried for the people and the joy he spread. He was a king at heart. His love and joy was spread generously among the village, and so often he also took this love for people beyond and would spend this time helping those that were vulnerable and needed more than just joy, but love and support as well. Many years later, he and his family decided to find themselves a new kingdom in a land far away. This beautiful land was different and challenging, but even there the king broke through this and spread so much joy. This went on for many years, and a lot of joy and love was spread. One morning everything changed. The king's spirit decided that the joy he spread and the love he carried was needed somewhere else. Without any notice, his spirit left the king's body and he flew to a place that is now perfect with his presence. For the king and his family and everyone around them, this was a nightmare they never dared to dream. The emptiness this created was almost too painful to bear, and the lives they were now living seemed pointless and dull. But somewhere in this emptiness was a light, a glowing seed found in everyone he touched, a seed that was still suppressed with pain that was easily overlooked. This seed was a part of the king himself, a seed he planted a long time ago that will never leave. The seed was small to start with, but as the emptiness faded away, the seed grew and the people left behind knew that he wasn't truly gone. He grew and lived in the people and was nourished by the memories and lessons he left behind. The king in spirit knew this and could rest in peace in his perfect land he deserved so very much and lived happily ever after. This king was my dad. I'm so proud to be able to say that, and I loved him so much. I know he will always be there with me, but nevertheless, I'm going to miss him so much as well. But in the end, I know there's a lot he passed on to me and many of us as well, and that he will always live in here. Lastly, I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you guys for coming and ask you to stay on later on to spread some of that joy and love that we all know too well from my dad.
Hi everyone. Wow, this is a speech I never wanted to give. First, I'd just like to start by saying thank you not only for being here today, but for the incredible love and support that this whānau has felt over the past couple of weeks, and for everyone who's been so instrumental in bringing together today's celebrations in your own special ways and in your small gestures, and it's meant a lot. It's made a huge difference. I've decided to share a poem that I wrote recently after George's passing. Dear George, you've left us all in a bit of strife, but we will never forget that you, my friend, were always larger than life. You were proud of your abilities as a grafter, but we will always remember you for your infectious laughter. I'll never forget your cheeky grin, which was notably present after a bottle of gin. Where beer was involved, you always seemed compliant, but at heart you really were a gentle giant. There was no doubt that you were a German through and through, but into a wonderful Kiwi you so effortlessly grew. Karen tells me you had just agreed to a raw foods diet. I have to say, this is a very extreme way to make that idea go quiet. So while all the chickens breathe a sigh of relief, we all mourn that your time with us was just far too brief. So tonight, we raise a glass to you, mate, as we struggle with this twisted sense of fate. My good mate George, you truly were one of a kind. In life, we seek reason, but for this, an explanation is just too hard to find. But he would not want us to view it that way. Instead, let's remember the good times we had, or the funny things he'd say could he only be here with us all today. If I only had 5 minutes the day he passed away, I would have had time to tell you all the things I needed to say. I never got to tell you how much you mean to me, or that I couldn't have asked for a better father-in-law, better than anyone could ever be. But at tomorrow's dawn, we'll get a new start, and we'll all do our best to put behind us all the heaviness we feel in our hearts. There are so many questions that remain unanswered, but for tonight, I'm sure you'd prefer we all just got blasted. Your life touched so many people who became your friends along the way. There are others here who miss you, mate, and they've gathered here today. So today, we bid you farewell, for it's clear to us that your time here is complete. Making up for your absence will be no mean feat. I know you will be watching our every movement, but I can already hear you saying there's always room for improvement.
So those of you who would wish to pay your respects to George, please come forward and in your own time and place a pedal on George's coffin. So George is gone. You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that he has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love that you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what he would want. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. George, it is time to bid you farewell. Go well with the love and respect of your family and friends.